We all just kind of accept that aging is inevitable. But what if it isn't? What if aging is actually a disease? And like any other disease, it could be treated or maybe even reversed. Well, today, we're going to dive into the science that says we are right on the edge of a breakthrough that could completely change what it means to grow old. And this quote, this gets right to the heart of it all. This isn't some far-off sci-fi dream anymore. We are talking about the very real ability to go into an old cell and basically tell it to be young again. But to really get your head around how that's even possible, we first have to understand our body's master code.
So let's start with a really basic but kind of profound mystery. Every single cell in your body, from your brain to your big toe, has the exact same DNA blueprint, the exact same one. Which brings up a really interesting question, right?
If they've all got the same instruction manual, how on earth do they end up so wildly different? How does one cell know, hey, I'm supposed to be part of an eyeball, while another one knows it's supposed to be skin?
Well, the answer is this incredible thing called the epigenome. Think of it like this. If your DNA is the entire cookbook, the epigenome is like a chef deciding which recipes to actually use. An eye cell and a skin cell have the same book, but these tiny molecular switches turn certain genes on and others off. That's what gives every cell its unique identity and its specific job.
And the scale of this whole operation, it's just staggering. To try and put it in perspective, one expert compared a single cell to a city the size of Manhattan, but with buildings 500 stories tall and 10 billion proteins acting like people, just constantly working, building, repairing. That level of complexity is happening inside of you every single second.
Okay, so if our cells are these amazing, super organized little cities, why do they break down? Why do we get wrinkles? Why do our bodies eventually start to fail? Well, the latest science is pointing to a new culprit, a loss of information.
So here is the big shift in thinking. Scientists are now looking at aging not as this unavoidable process of decay, but as a disease caused by errors building up in our cellular software, that epigenetic code we were just talking about.
And this is basically how it all goes down. It's like a chain reaction. See, throughout our lives, our DNA gets a little bit damaged from, sunlight, toxins, just living. Now, our cells are incredible at making repairs, but every time they have to rush in to fix the DNA, there's a small chance those little epigenetic switches get moved to the wrong spot. Over decades, enough of these switches get flipped that the cell starts to get confused. It forgets its original instructions. And that cellular forgetfulness, that is what we call aging.
But what if we could hit a reset button, right? What if we could just remind those confused cells what they were supposed to be doing in the first place? Well, it turns out scientists have actually found one.
It all kicked off in 2006 with a Nobel Prize-winning discovery by Shinya Yamanaka. He found 4 specific proteins, we call them Yamanaka Factors now, that could totally wipe a cell's memory, turning it all the way back into a blank slate stem cell, a full reset. But the real game changer, that came in 2016. Scientists figured out that if you use just a small dose of these factors, it doesn't erase the cell's identity. Instead, it just winds back the clock, making an old cell function like a young one again, a partial reset.
And that right there, that's what we mean by cellular rejuvenation. It's not about changing what a cell is. It's about resetting its epigenetic age, cleaning out all those accumulated errors, and just restoring it to a younger, healthier state.
Okay, so all of this sounds absolutely fantastic in a petri dish, but does it actually work in a living, breathing organism? Let's take a look at the evidence. Just look at this number for a second, 250. That is the human equivalent lifespan that scientists have gotten out of mice who received this kind of treatment. We're not talking about a minor improvement here. This is a fundamental shift in what we thought was possible. And remember, it's not just about living longer, it's about living healthier. This same technology has already been used to reverse blindness in animals, to literally erase wrinkles on monkeys, and of course, to successfully make old human cells young again in the lab.
And I really want to drive this point home. This is not some far-off fantasy. This is happening right now. There are dozens of companies, backed by billions of dollars in funding, that are in human clinical trials, working around the clock to bring these therapies from the lab to all of us.
So, what does this all mean for you and me? What does a future actually look like, where we can actively turn back the clock on the damage of aging? This quote, it really captures the new way of thinking about this. It hints at this idea called longevity escape velocity.
The theory is, if you can just stay healthy long enough to catch the first wave of these therapies, well, those treatments will keep you healthy enough for the next wave, and so on and so on. The goal is simply to be here when the technology arrives.
So how do you stick about? Well, the amazing thing is you can start today. Simple, everyday actions have been shown to help your body naturally repair its own epigenome. We're talking about things like regular exercise, intermittent fasting, and just getting really good, high-quality sleep. They all send signals to your cells to clean house and start acting young again. Which, of course, brings us to the final question. This technology isn't just about adding more years to our life, it's about adding more life to our years. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. If you had more of that truly healthy, vibrant time, what would you do with it?